There were a total of 10 Nazi Party rallies, 8 of which were held in Nuremberg. When Hitler came to power in 1933, he designated Nuremberg as the city of the Nazi Party rallies. From that point on, the party rallies were given a motto. 1933 Victory Party Congress. 1934 Party Congress of Unity and Strength. 1935 Freedom Party Congress. 1936 Party Congress of Honor. 1937 Labour Party Congress. 1938 Greater Germany Party Congress. 1939 The Reich Party Congress of Peace was already planned but did not take place because of the German Wehrmacht's attack on Poland and the outbreak of the Second World War. When I walked around this area, I always asked myself what stories were hidden behind these stones and doors. So I set out to research these stories, and that is how this documentation came about. The first party congress of the NSDAP took place in Munich in January 1923. The second party congress took place in Weimar in 1926. In 1927 and 1929, Nuremberg was chosen as the party congress venue. The party conferences served as a way for the Nazis to present themselves. Up to 1 million visitors came to the annual propaganda events held in September.
Ich bin Babette von Roggi.
I'm Babette from Roggi and a real Nuremberg child. I was born here in the early 1950s, when people still played with tin toys and photos still had white jagged edges. My parents always took me for walks around this area. I can't remember, but they often told me about it. Only one general plan has survived from the Nazi era. The map shows an overview in the final planning stage. I will explain to you what happened at each location and site, what buildings were actually built, what remains of the Nazi Party rally grounds, and how it is used today. In the last part, I told you the story of the imperial regalia and how they came to Nuremberg. This part follows on from that. The Nuremberg City Museum is housed in the Fembo House. Here you have the opportunity to view replicas of parts of the imperial regalia up close. Above the crown treasure hangs a replica of the silver shrine in which the relics were kept at that time. The silver shrine used to hang in the choir of the Church of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Lance is depicted on the floor. This is the oldest piece of the imperial regalia. It is a winged lance with an iron pin. According to legend, it is a holy nail from the cross of Jesus. The imperial regalia once came to Nuremberg disguised under a fish transport. A tour through the magnificent interiors of the former merchant and patrician house provides a broad perspective on Nuremberg and its city history. The 2.5-meter high imperial throne, with a hollow space that is not visible from the outside, an impressive piece of furniture. It has been in the City Museum since 1983 and comes from the Great Council Chamber of the Nuremberg City Hall from 1340, which Charles IV probably visited about 50 times. A special feature saying "I do" here in a hall with a Baroque stucco ceiling is a unique backdrop for your wedding ceremony. In the middle is the basic motif, love and friendship. Venus is the goddess of charm and pleasure in love, but also of fertility. Cupid, who is at her side as a constant companion for love and friendship, aims his arrow at Venus, who tries in vain to escape. Is there a seductive companion for his wedding ceremony? Neptune and his fountain. The Neptune fountain is deeply rooted in Nuremberg's history. At a later date, I will visit the still preserved fountain in Nuremberg City Park and explain the story behind the fountain. In the Fembo House, photo exhibitions show Nuremberg through the ages. Back to the Nazi Party rally grounds, to the Congress Hall. I take the elevator from the basement to the first floor of the Congress Hall. The elevator was only installed after the Nazi era. When you enter the rotunda for the first time, you are simply impressed by its size. And this is just the hall's staircase. The horseshoe walkway is 496 meters long. The entrances from the stairwell to the interior of the stands were bricked up. Planned spaces for cloakrooms and sanitary areas. The windows were installed by the city of Nuremberg for the building exhibition in 1949 and are now a listed building. The brick walls were painted white to give a brighter, friendlier impression. I met the then head of department of the Quell Mail Order Company here at his former workplace. From the 1970s onwards, Quell was able to rent cheap storage space here. The shipping signs from back then still hang on the walls today.
This was my Quell office, which I lived in from 1972 to 2006.
I am surprised that so much of his former office has been preserved to this day. It is as if time has stood still here. The beloved Quell catalogue is still within reach. Nothing has changed here for over 15 years since Quell moved out. The Quell Mail Order Company was the largest mail order company in Europe. The head office and sales rooms were on the Nuremberg-Firth city border, founded in October 1927 by Gustav Schickedanz. He joined the NSDAP in 1932. Quell was a German family business. In June 2009, Quell GmbH Germany filed for bankruptcy. The catalogue is a piece of history from the years of the economic miracle in the Federal Republic of Germany. From 1949 onwards, the newest Quell news appears as slim catalogues several times a year. The Congress Hall housed Quell's largest warehouse to date. The goods were stacked over 3 floors.
White goods were a separate shipping process and had never been here in the Congress Hall before. It wouldn't have fit in here anyway. With the transport trolleys, with the transport options here. White goods means refrigerators, stoves, etc. The Congress Hall would not have been suitable.
The parcel chute is still partially in place today, and the imprints of the roller conveyor belts can still be seen in the tar. At that time, 15,000 packages left the Congress Hall every day. At the end of the arcade, you can still see the signs and fastenings of the container bridges. In addition to branded products, Quell also sold numerous own brands. The products behind them were mostly supplied by well-known manufacturers, relabeled and simplified in design and technology to justify a lower price. Well-known example brands were Privilege and Universim. Behind this door, the goods slide came from the first floor and the packages were loaded onto the truck containers. The stainless steel slide was removed. The signs remained. The staircase was originally intended for party members to get to their seats, but later, for over 30 years, the steps transported the employees of the Quell company to their workplaces. The boiler room. Only a part of the shipping area on the first floor was heated with an oil heating system that was installed later. The packaging section was fitted with a lowered ceiling. Nevertheless, it must have been pretty cold because the walls were not insulated in any way. I am surprised at how much original furniture is still here. Of course, there was also a canteen where you spent your lunch break, and a canteen lady sold drinks. Right next door was the computer center. At the time, that meant 10-dot matrix printers for printing out orders and delivery notes. The yellow markings on the floor indicate the former high bay warehouse. Vacuum cleaners, CD players, televisions, video recorders and radios were stored here. Anything that could be sent down the goods chute. 2 elevators were installed in the Congress Hall and an additional conveyor belt in the courtyard, from the truck loading ramp to the shipping department on the first floor.
Wir sind ja 1972 hier.
We first moved here in 1972. The floor was just paving stones. The first few months were spent transporting the goods here to the Congress Hall. The goods were then transported along here using forklift trucks. One floor is about 500 meters long, and the pallets collapsed 10 times during transport to the shipping warehouse. We couldn't leave it like that and changed something. We then concreted and tarred the driveway. Then the problem was solved.
After Quell built a modern high bay warehouse in Leipzig, the Congress Hall was no longer needed as a warehouse. The Congress Hall was now just an empty stairwell again. I follow the stairs down. No light, confusing and a bit scary. Where will I get out? Many stairwells and passageways are bricked up to create separate storage rooms. Throughout the entire circular building, 16 staircases lead from the grandstand entrances on the upper floors to the basement, which were then intended to serve as escape routes. 16 cloakrooms and sanitary facilities were planned for each floor. My path leads me to a workshop. Motorcycle, a tractor, I find myself with Ahab. He tells me that he and his friends have rented some rooms here and feel at home.
Also die Elektrik haben wir alles selber verlegt hier.
He is happy to take some time to chat with me.
Das müssen wir alles auf eigene Kosten machen, ja.
We had to do all of that at our own expense. We were looking for a workshop to do some work on because we are 5 people from different professions, but mostly craftsmen. At that time, Quell moved out of the Congress Hall because it was too small for them. Quell packed and shipped packages here.
Dadurch haben wir hier ein Bein reingekriegt und wir sind jetzt seit, glaube ich,
That gave us a leg up, and we have been here for 13 or 14 years now. You can do work on things here, an engine can even run here, and that doesn't bother anyone. It's just a great atmosphere. At the beginning, we were already thinking about everything that had happened here and what the whole area was supposed to represent. But now we've gotten used to it. People always come by when the door is open and ask if they can have a look inside. They are interested in the history of the hall. They ask if they can go out onto the balcony or look into the inner courtyard.
When the Quell left the Congress Hall in 2007, it was no longer possible to rent out the entire floor again. A lack of fire protection on the 2nd and 3rd floors prevented this. As a result, the city could only rent out the ground floor. Around 100 tenants have now moved into the round building. Companies, clubs, classic car enthusiasts, sports clubs, showmen, the fire department, the electoral office and museums that need storage space for their exhibits. To this day, the Congress Hall remains just a torso. In 1973, the entire building was listed as a historical monument. A former motorcycle racer opens the door to his workshop for me.
Well, I'm thinking about the history of the house, no question about it. But to be honest, we're glad that we can be here. We used to race motorcycles when we were young, and we've been in this room for 15 years now, maintaining our old racing machines, most of which we built ourselves. The room in the city of Nuremberg is wonderful, always has the same temperature, summer and winter, 8 degrees. That means it's warm in winter and cold in summer. But it's enough for working on and maintaining the motorcycles.
A few doors down, I am warmly welcomed by an archaeologist.
We have been based here with the City Archaeology Department in the Congress Hall for almost 10 years. We have a large depot. All the finds that are recovered from archaeological excavations throughout the city have to be stored permanently. We get everything, it is restored, then put into the depot here, and we are very happy with the rooms here. We have large rooms, we have space, and we can arrange our shelves in such a way that we can find the finds again. We are actually responsible for every building project. We check beforehand if there is any suspicion that there might be archaeological work. Excavations must be carried out by the builder at his own expense. We support him with logistics and advice. Of course, we make discoveries. The oldest thing we have here is part of a mammoth tusk and stone tools from old Stone Age hunters who hunted reindeer and wild horses in the Gustenhof district around 12,000 BC. The most recent thing we have is from the Second World War. We also examine the war rubble. This always offers us interesting aspects. Whatever is found, it is here in the Congress Hall.
The best way to get an overall view of the entire rotunda and the inner courtyard is from the observation deck, which was built on the 3rd floor. In earlier years, the fire brigade and technical relief vehicles were parked in the inner courtyard. Some Nuremberg citizens only saw the inner courtyard of the Congress Hall when they had parked their car incorrectly. The police used the entire inner courtyard as a parking area for towed cars. In the summer, the Christmas market stalls or the Rock im Park music stage were stored next to the cars. This is exactly where the Führer's pulpit was supposed to have stood. Today, the fire brigade uses part of the courtyard for training purposes. Today, visitors have the opportunity to explore the inner courtyard on foot at any time, to get an impression of the size and madness that come together here. The information stellies explained to visitors in German and English what was planned here. The granite blocks lying next to them were intended for the pillar gallery. The interior was to be limited to the 2nd floor with 66 granite columns with a height of 17 meters. This is what the granite blocks were originally intended for. They were found in a quarry in Hesse. The granite columns can be clearly seen on the 2nd original size wooden model of the interior. The model was removed in 1939 so as not to hinder the ongoing construction work. In the inner courtyard, you can still see parts of the granite selection for the interior wall cladding. Somewhat inconspicuously, a few granite strips have been attached to the left and right of the 2 end buildings. This is what the entire interior cladding should look like after the completion of the Congress Hall. The Nuremberg Symphony Orchestra is a private, non-profit symphony orchestra from Nuremberg. The orchestra was founded in 1946 and was then called the Franconian State Orchestra. The musicians only gave themselves their current name in 1963 when they found a new home in the Congress Hall. The symphony orchestra is now housed here in the southern end building of the Congress Hall. Numerous artists have already been guests here and played with the orchestra. In the music room in the Congress Hall, the orchestra plays cross-cultural projects from pop, jazz, film, and literature. In the winter months, during the Nuremberg Christmas market, Christmas Advent concerts with festive Baroque music take place. 1993 was one of the high points in the orchestra's history. The Grammys were being awarded in Los Angeles when the Nuremberg Symphony Orchestra received one of the coveted trophies. They were honored for the main theme of the television series The Beauty and the Beast. It was the crowning of a Hollywood connection that stretched back to the 1950s, when the orchestra recorded the soundtracks of the monumental film classics Quo Vadis and Ben-Hur. In addition to the many rooms for storing musical instruments, there is a rehearsal room that was converted into a concert hall with 500 seats in 2008. The musicians find the most modern technology here. Over 200,000 people enjoy the Nuremberg Symphony Orchestra's 100 or so musical performances every season. They want to attract young people to classical music in particular with their concerts. This is very important to the Nuremberg professional musicians. The orchestra also gives age-appropriate and interactive concerts for children and young people. Not only well known in Nuremberg, but also at home all over the world, the orchestra gives numerous international guest performances and concerts, for example in Vienna, Prague, Milan, Japan, and China. The musicians meet daily to rehearse in the concert hall in the Southern Head building. Professor Lucius Hemmer, who has been artistic director since 2003, takes a few minutes for me.
Die Nürnberger Symphoniker sind
The Nuremberg Symphony Orchestra is the concert orchestra of the Nuremberg metropolitan region, and we have been around since 1946, so we can celebrate 75 years in 2021. We do around 100 concerts here in Nuremberg every year, and our goal is to offer a wide range of things for everyone. For young and old, for those who are music lovers, but also for those who only come every now and then. Pop crossover, symphonic offerings, lots of offerings in the area of music education work, but also for people with dementia. So the whole spectrum of music. Also in all genres, symphonic but also pop crossover, and we also try to offer a targeted offering for the people in the region.
Wir versuchen auch ein gezieltes Angebot für die Menschen in der Region zu machen. Nicht jeder kann nach Nürnberg reisen.
Not everyone can travel to Nuremberg, but we can come there and we are happy when we can play for the people there. When we work with choirs there, when we are the link between the professionals and the committed amateur musicians. And of course the symphony orchestra also performs nationally and, above all, internationally.
National und vor allem auch international auf. Nicht nur China, Japan.
Not only in China and Japan, but also regularly in Milan, Prague, Vienna and the big cities, the Nuremberg Symphony Orchestra is a popular venue everywhere.
Once a summer, the orchestra plays in the neighbouring Luitpoldhain at Europe's largest classical open-air concert in front of 70,000 visitors. Hitler once filled the park with his SS and SA men. Today it is filled with classical music lovers. The classic open air has now become the largest of its kind in Europe. Free entry allows you to listen to classical music under the starry sky in a picnic atmosphere. The classic open air began in 2000 to mark the city's 950th anniversary. Spectators are invited to make themselves comfortable on the lawn in front of the stage with blankets and folding chairs, and to enjoy wine and snacks they have brought with them. Over time, this has developed into a culture of picnics by candlelight and sparklers burning, leading up to the final fireworks display. At that time, the Congress Hall was still advertised on the tickets for the Serenadenhof. The Serenadenhof is located in the inner courtyard of the southern head building. The Nuremberg Symphony Orchestra invites you to a summer of music in a unique atmosphere in the cozy green inner courtyard. Groups and artists such as Spider Murphy Gang, Manfred Mann's Earth Band and Münchener Freiheit also perform here. With around 800 seats and a tin roof, the inner courtyard offers great acoustics. The Canoe Club has created a home for itself right next to the concert stage inside the head building. When you enter the warehouses, history immediately catches up with you again. Endless corridors and rooms. This is where the club members store their treasures, their boats. In the middle of the canoes, granite columns. In the two head buildings, there are several halls with freestanding granite columns. It is often said that these columns were a gift from the dictator Mussolini, but that belongs to the realm of legend. There is also plenty of food and drink available, and the trophy collection in the clubhouse shows that they are not bad at it. The documentation center of the Nazi Party rally grounds in Nuremberg is located in the northern head building of the Congress Hall. The two head buildings were originally intended as reception halls for the guests of honor. Ordinary people had to enter the interior through the round building. The high party members and guests of honor were to be received in the two head buildings. Today, a steel and glass pole can be seen running through the entire northern head building. The pole ends in the inner courtyard of the Congress Hall. It is immediately recognizable as a foreign body in the grey granite-clad building. When construction work on the building began in 2000, stones were cut out of the wall as a symbolic groundbreaking ceremony. The granite stones that were removed still lie directly in front of the wall. Visitors can now see from the outside what is behind the granite facade: simple bricks. The entrance to the documentation center is via the outside staircase. The documentation center opened in 2001. Visitors to the entrance area notice that nothing has been covered or plastered. Only steel stairs have been installed and light has been directed into the museum. The original concept from 1935 did not include skylights for the head building. On the tour you can see the Nazis' construction progress right up to the point of a standstill. The unfinished building structure was included in the museum's tour. Only a screed with the underfloor heating was installed. Over 300,000 visitors come to the documentation center every year. For many people, it is the only chance to take a look behind the facade of the unfinished torso of the Congress Hall. The exhibition rooms, which vary in size, have largely remained in their original shell. Not the entire head building is exhibition space. There are also offices, a cinema, and meeting rooms on the two floors. The focus of the permanent exhibition, Fascination and Violence, is on the Nazi Party rallies in Nuremberg. At the beginning, you get an insight into Hitler. how he came to power, the hype that was created about him. You learn all about the construction history of the Nazi Party rally grounds and the history between 1933 and 1945. Numerous image, sound and film documents explain and inform about Nuremberg and the Nazi era. Of course, the exhibition also deals with anti-Semitism and the Holocaust. Nuremberg is not a place of victims, but a place of perpetrators. I am of the opinion that we can learn at the sites of the perpetrators how we can avoid becoming perpetrators and followers. Adolf Hitler had a particularly strong urge for gigantism. His urge was beyond economics and efficiency. Buildings, weapons, rail networks, nothing could be big enough for him. Nuremberg was considered particularly German and was a symbol of a German movement, and the Nazis created their own cult here at party rallies. Documentation and commemoration go hand in hand here. At the end of the tour of the exhibition, you come back to the continuous pole. From here, you get an impression of where Hitler wanted to give his speech in the Congress Hall once a year, and how 50,000 party members would cheer him fanatically. The large columned hall is clearly visible from the walkway on the pole. You also have a view of the standard courtyard. Various special exhibitions are shown in the Great Hall with the columns. There is an APC shelter on the ground floor of the Northern Head building. This is where the Disaster Control Command Center was set up. From here, the city authorities and the mayor would have directed operations in the bomb-proof bunker in the event of an emergency. The fire brigades and rescue services would have been controlled and directed from here. Emergency calls to 112 from the Nuremberg, Firth and Erlangen regions would all have come in here. However, the bunker and the control center were never used for their intended purpose. The control center moved to Fire Station 4 at Nuremberg Harbor in 2010. To me, the rooms look as if they were only abandoned yesterday, but they have simply been standing empty and unused for a long time. There are a total of 23 rooms in the bunker. This room served as the command center. The Congress Hall has been in the headlines time and again over the years. Water ingress, toxic waste or fires. An archway in the arcade immediately catches the eye. The granite stones are rounded. The contents of the warehouse burned in the rooms behind it. The fire brigade could only extinguish the fire from the outside. The water pressure hit the granite of the arch and rounded off its edges. Another disaster occurred in the basement of the Congress Hall. A suicide bomber blew himself up with his pickup truck, which he had parked in the catacombs. Even today, the newly installed stones clearly show the damage to the vault, but the structural testing did not reveal any serious damage. The pressure wave of the explosion ripped the iron gate from its anchorage and hurled it across the entire square. The enormous pressure wave did not just escape through the gate. The traces and cracks of the explosion can still be seen on the upper floors.